The enemy is you.
Hey, come on, JB. We haven't even done anything yet.
I'm always in trouble with JB. You ever notice that? What'd I do, man? The enemy is you.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? We're live. Live stream chat. What is happening? Frank, thank you for the song of the day. I'm very curious as to you pick the songs of the day. I was just thinking that a few minutes ago. What's the process, Frank, of how you pick these songs of the day? Maybe we should get Frank on for a bonus interview one day. What do you say, Ben?
I say yes.
Yeah.
The guy's a freaking news junkie. I thought I was a news junkie until I met Frank.
We talk about him so much on the show. I think it's long overdue. We have an interview, a one-on-one with Frank.
My bet is the logic is Ben's old. I'm taking old songs from the oldies radio station, and it works because pretty much even if I can't like articulate the song that he picks, I hear it. You get what I'm saying? Whereas like when you pick a song or some of our other listeners pick a songs from the 90s or the O's, I'm like. Like yesterday wasn't yesterday downtown?
Yesterday was downtown.
When you're alone, life is making you low. Come on, D, you can always go.
Downtown.
There you go.
All right, Frank's in, so we should book that. All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Friday, February 5th is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank our sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. The Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader. ChicagoReader.com. Subscribe to the Reader for all things there is to know about the city of Chicago. My favorite part of the Reader, it's been gone. I mean, understandably, the early warnings list, concerts that are coming to town. It'll be back one of these days. Chicago Reader, go check it out. Also, Ben's column, weekly, Chicago Reader. This one involves Kelly Cassidy, right, Ben?
KC, who will be on the show next week.
Oh, that's a tease.
Yeah, KC will be on the show. I'm outraged, but not really, about Heather Staines handing off her seat to Kelly Cassidy. I take the deep dive on filling vacancies. So, yeah, have a lot of fun with it.
All right.
And Kelly Cassidy will be on the show next week. By then, she may be Senator Kelly Cassidy.
Oh my goodness. We would... Fingers crossed, we may get a scoop or something, you know?
I'm going to have to clean up this room. If she's Senator Kelly Cassidy as opposed to state rep, you know what? A state senator as opposed, I got to clean up the room. Dude.
I mean, the least you can do is just clean up that one section everybody can see on the computer. That's the least you can do.
Is it kind of messy back there?
It looks good. Looks good. Maybe a little dusting. Maybe get a little the Swiffer out.
I'm going to dust this room down. Oh, God, this thing, I don't even want to discuss all the boxes I got to put away.
Please no. Please no. All right, your song of the day from Frank is My Sweet Lord by George Harrison.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I could do the chiffons. He stole it from the chiffons, but he's so fine. But I'll stick to My Sweet Lord, my Lord, come on, D. Ooh, my Lord, I really want to be you. Now I'm going to do the slide guitar, Frank. Wow. You know, he stole it from He's So Fine. You know that, don't you? Just want to say, George Harrison, love you dearly, but you stole that from the chiffons.
That was bad. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Friday, February 5th, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Rummana Rundown with Chicago Sun-Times editor Rummana Hussain. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this 2 + 2 = 4 Friday, and here's why. Big defamation lawsuit filed yesterday in New York City. Smartmatic, a company that provides election technology, is seeking $2.7 billion in damages from Rupert Murdoch's Fox Corporation. That's $2.7 billion with a B, to paraphrase Lori Lightfoot. Smartmatic has accused Rupert's network of defamation and contributing to the fervor that led to the siege of the Capitol. They named 3 of President Donnie's favorite Fox personalities, including Lou Dobbs and Janine Perot. Pretty well-written lawsuit, D, as lawsuits go. And I'm not hating on lawyers when I say that. Some of my best friends are lawyers. Speaking of which, Jim Coogan will be here next week to talk about impeachment. And we'll probably talk about this lawsuit. But legal briefs are not always the most scintillating of readings, except for this one. This one's actually pretty good, and I will now read the opening. This is the opening of the lawsuit.
I gotta say, that brown line was extra long on that one. My goodness, usually it just goes right by. That one was an extender train there.
Yeah, that's Mayor Pete driving the brown line. He's like, dude, how you doing, Chicago? It's now the transportation secretary. Here's the opening. The earth is round. 2 + 2 = 4. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 election for president and vice president of the United States. The election was not stolen, rigged, or fixed. These are facts. These are demonstrable and irrefutable. Defendants have always known these facts. They know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 U.S. election. They know that the election was not stolen. They know the election was not rigged or fixed. They knew these truths just as they knew the earth is round and 2 + 2 = 4. Defendants did not want Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to win the election. They wanted President Donald Trump and Vice President Michael Pence to win re-election. Defendants were disappointed, but they also saw an opportunity to capitalize on President Trump's popularity by inventing a story. Defendants decided to tell people that the election was stolen from Trump and Pence, end of quote. That's the opening. And that is well done, lawyers, or whoever wrote that. Probably some writer in the back room. Let me write this, okay? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure it was some lawyer with the Harvard or wherever. Really well done. And it just sums everything up. What is it? MAGA and their enablers on TV just made it up. They made up this whole story about, in this case, Smartmatic changing votes and then having like some kind of bizarre connection to Hugo Chavez. They just made it all up. MAGA started passing it back and forth. Giuliani was passing it back and forth, just filling MAGA's heads with all kinds of nonsense so that MAGA would say, well, I just don't believe it. I don't believe this is true. There's still like folks out there. I've seen them interviewed on TV that say, I went to bed on election night and Trump was winning. When I woke up the next day, he was not winning. Something is wrong. Yeah, it's called counting the votes. They didn't count all the votes on election night by the time you went to bed. Anyway, Fox was making a lot of money by giving MAGA what it wanted, I will add. It was one of the highest rated TV networks on cable TV. Their broadcasters, their enablers, their superstars make huge salaries. So yes, it was profitable. It not only worked from a political standpoint, you fill MAGA's head with nonsense, they'll vote your way, they'll elect senators and congressmen and presidents that'll give tax breaks to the wealthy like Rupert Murdoch, but it also works as entertainment. A lot of people watching, charge a lot in advertising, et cetera and so forth, more money for Murdoch. So yeah, it works from a political standpoint and a business standpoint. And so there's no incentive for the Foxes of the world to clean up their act. And that's why this lawsuit is so important. And I've got mixed feelings when I say this. I've been working for newspapers my whole life. And I realize that when you have a big defamation lawsuit like this, it could end up in some journalists losing their jobs. On the other hand, I don't see any other way to force the Fox of the world to stop broadcasting garbage to fill the minds of MAGA. In fact, there was an item in the New York Times to prove this point that ran yesterday, and I'll just read this to you. Here we go, right here. Even after the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, a deadly riot led by Trump loyalists, the talk of Fraud has not fully died down. In an appearance on Tuesday on Newsmax, Mike Lindell, the MyPillow funder, who had been one of Trump's most devoted supporters, began an attack on Dominion, another election company, in a sign that the threat of defamation lawsuits has deterred media outlets that have broadcast conspiracy theories. The Newsmax anchor cut off Lindell and read a statement, quote, "The election results in every state were certified. Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view." End of quote. In other words, we have to add this to cover ourselves for the lawsuit that will be filed or may have already been filed. I don't know if that, by the way, will stop people from going on TV, making all kinds of outrageous contentions, but it's a step in the right direction. And speaking of outrageous contentions, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon congresswoman from Georgia, was ousted by Congress from 2 committees yesterday. It was largely partisan vote, as you probably already know. Only 11 Republicans, including Illinois' Adam Kinzinger, joined the Democrats. In her defense, Marjorie Taylor Greene said this, and I am quoting, quote, "I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them," end of quote. Allowed to believe things that weren't true. Let's be clear. She was the one on social media that gave thumbs up to killing Democratic Congress people. It wasn't like someone allowed her to do it. She did that. And now she's like blaming some unknown, unnamed person, place, or thing for, quote, allowing her to do something that she shouldn't have done. And by saying, I was allowed to believe it, like it was somebody else's fault, it's as though she doesn't want to be held accountable for the wretched things that she said. Just like Fox doesn't want to be held accountable for broadcasting some of the nonsense that filled Marjorie Taylor Greene's head. Well, it looks as though it'll take a court to settle this. Clearly, the Republican Party is not going to continue to allow, it's going to continue to allow bizarre and inflammatory things to fill the heads of the next generation of Marjorie Taylor Greenes for years to come. We got a great show today, everybody. Rummana Hussain will be here from the Chicago Sun-Times. She's not going to be filling your heads with anything but the truth, brilliant truth of Rummana Hussain. She's all fired up. We're going to talk about AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Golden Globes, a whole bunch of stuff I'll be talking about with Rummana Hussain. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man that Marjorie Taylor Greene proudly calls
Dennis.
Dr. D.
Ah, damn. One of these
With
days.
the news.
One of these days.
One of these nights. Sorry.
Oh, get that water. Get that water. Oh. Okay, let's go. How's it going, everybody? Before we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois for the 4th and final time this week, we need to remind all of you listening to go and download this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. It's true. Every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning, brand new pre-recorded content from the Ben Joravsky Show for you to check out. Here's this weekend's lineup. Saturday, an old friend of the Ben Joravsky Show. Ben loves talking with him. It's his former First Tuesday co-host, the one, the only, MD Mick Dumke. Ben, tell us about what you're going to... We haven't had the interview yet, but Ben, what do you plan on discussing with Mick?
Well, you know what, D, here's the thing. When Mick and I get together, Lord knows where the conversation's going to go. So one of Mick's obsessions is the insurrection and all the players behind the insurrection and whether there's a potential connection between the Trump political operation, Donald Trump himself, and the insurrectionists. That's one of his obsessions. I share that. But then we also share an obsession over Chicago politics. And so some of the antics that are happening right now in Chicago City Council, which give me, just like a moment of, I don't know, just to smile a little bit. I now really appreciate the antics of my alderman and mayor. So we may talk about Chicago politics as well. Or we may get into the handoff from Heather Stays to Kelly Cassidy. We'll definitely talk about the Republican Party and its moment of decision Do they stick with Marjorie Taylor Greene or do they go with Adam Kinzinger? That's what it's coming down to right now. So we'll probably talk about all those things. And Mick Dumke knows politics, folks, inside and out. Total political junkie. And we have these conversations pretty much every week when at least once a week on the phone, just the two of us. So we're just going to sort of let all of you into the conversation this time. And that, we'll do that interview this afternoon, drop it tomorrow.
All right. Yep. That's going to be available Saturday by 5 a.m. If you get up early, hey, you got an interview to listen to. Brand new with Mick Dumke. On to Sunday's interview. Guys, have you heard the news? First Tuesdays is back. Yeah, the Hideout Show. Every first Tuesday of the month. It's a virtual show these days. And what we did is I got the MP3 of it, and we're going to make it available for download on Sunday. It's First Tuesday with Maya Dukmasova and Ben Joravsky. Ben, tell everybody about it. Who was your guest again?
Yana Komenchov and Greg Pratt, two excellent educators. Well, Yana's an education reporter. Greg Pratt, of course, City Hall reporter for the Chicago Tribune. And we sort of break down the impasse between the teachers and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I know some of you, I want to thank you, the listeners who already heard it on the live feed. It was, appreciate that a lot. It's essentially a fundraiser for the Hideout. Really miss those old days. Speaking of Frank, I could see Frank. He was a regular sitting in the front row. Always was one of the first to ask a question. I miss those days so much, those first Tuesday shows at the Hideout. People drinking, talking politics, the audience coming back with us. Some really smart people in that room, know their politics inside and out. So those days will return. Yes, that vaccine will return. But at the moment, we're doing the virtual. And so I appreciate everybody who spent the $5 to listen to the show on Tuesday and help out the Hideout, really. And they thank you as well. But for everybody else, check it out on Sunday. It's an excellent conversation, in my humble opinion. Greg Pratt from the Tribune. I love that dimension of the political angle. Like, what's motivating Lori Lightfoot from the political angle? Does she think this is in her best interest? Is she just a stubborn person? Does she just have some bizarre revulsion to the Chicago Teachers Union? She'll never get over that election. What's with the Chicago Teachers Union? Can't they just agree to let Lori do whatever she wants? Come on, guys. Let Lori do whatever she wants. So it's a fun conversation.
Yeah, I can't wait for the in-person First Tuesdays again myself. Remember that one time Will Gazzardi showed up and everybody was having a good time? Then everybody went outside and there was the most wicked game of hacky sack going on. Remember that? Holy crap. No one could, his legs are so long. You can't beat him in hacky sack.
That's hilarious. Will Gazzardi, ladies and gentlemen, state representative from Logan Square. Very good progressive. I'm a progressive.
Forgot to mention his title. Yeah, he's a state rep. Really tall. Tallest man in Springfield. Maybe. I don't know. That Frericks is a big boy.
Frericks is like, give me the ball. I'm posting. I want the ball. I want it high in the air, okay? And so, your guy, Giannoulis.
Oh, that is my guy.
He's about 6. What's he running for? I forgot.
Secretary of State.
Yes. How could I forget? It's a sign of advancing age. I forgot. For 10 trivia points, what's Dan Biss running for?
Mayor of Evanston.
Whoa! All right. I knew that one.
So that's Sunday, all right? Available for download by 5 a.m., a replay of First Tuesday with Maya and Ben. And finally, on Monday, another return of a dear friend of the program, Juanita Irizarry. She's a friend of ours, and she's a friend of the Parks.
Yeah, we take the deep dive on the Obama Center coming to Jackson Park. We talk about General Irons and putting up the shredder down on the southeast side, environmental racism, a lot of environmental issues, park issues. Then we get a little political. You know, Juanita feels pretty strongly about the assaults on AOC. And so we take that, we go into that direction as well. But a lot of local political talk with Juanita Irizarry.
It's this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews, available by 5 a.m. tomorrow, Sunday and Monday. Mick Dumke, First Tuesday, Juanita Irizarry, ChicagoReader.com, and wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe, tell your friends, give us a review. 5 stars only. Okay, local news. Let's do it. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Face coverings.
No public event scheduled for Mayor Lightfoot this afternoon. And I'm sure she would love to have a public event or two today. I mean, anything besides dealing with these stubborn-ass teachers. Am I right, Madam Mayor? Yes, our coverage of the Chicago Teachers Union and their ongoing negotiations with the mayor and her Chicago Public School team continues. Remember, the mayor and the CPS would really like the teachers to return to their classrooms. More teachers and staff are getting vaccinated, and they have promised a safe and healthy return. And the Chicago Teachers Union, because the pandemic isn't quite over yet, they've been like, wait, what happened to stay home, save lives? And the CPS has been like, oh, yeah, we changed that. It's now stay home, lose job. And here we are at a standstill. So this week, the two parties have been negotiating, and I guess things got so hot this week that they needed a 48-hour cooling off period, Ben. Who knows what was said before that decision was made?
I want an answer.
On Thursday, Mayor Lightfoot announced that they made an offer to the teachers union. And Ben, I don't think the plan worked because the mayor did not sound cooled off one bit.
The ball is in the CTU's court.
Hey, what's the holdup, CTU? Come on.
After 80-plus meetings and going above and beyond to address the CTU leadership's various issues and concerns, we are out of runway.
Yeah, whatever that means. We're out of runway. Well, that was what we knew yesterday. So since we last left you, the CTU did make a counteroffer to a safe return to the classrooms. This was around 5 p.m. on Thursday. The Sun-Times headline from Stefano, I love the red line, Esposito, and Nader Issa reads, CTU sends counteroffer after mayor pushes for deal today, but no resolution announced. While the union prepared for continued talks, little news came out of the mayor's office after a 5:30 p.m. update said, quote, we received a counterproposal from CTU leadership and are working on a response. Details of the union's offer were not shared, but was also noted that the CTU accused the district of rejecting its most pressing demands and that it was the city's fault negotiations have dragged on to this point. The CTU said it had, quote, begged for earnest conversations with CPS leadership for months, but the district said repeatedly that it did not have to negotiate a safe reopening and didn't take bargaining seriously until the union threatened to defy the district's reopening plan. Now to today's news. Mayor Lori Lightfoot and CPS Chief Janice Jackson has responded to the Chicago Teachers Union counterproposal. The mayor said in a statement this morning, way before Ben was awake, quote, the statement said, yesterday afternoon, we received a counterproposal from CTU leadership and responded with our last, best, and final offer. We expect a response from CTU leadership today. We will be making further statements later today about school on Monday.
Okay. All right. That's it. We're out of runway. The ball's in your court. Let me just point out as I speak. Oh, God. Can I just go on a brief tangent about the weather last night, Dee? I went for my walk. It was like a snow that wasn't really snow. It was like slush falling from the sky. Slush that became ice as soon as it hit the ground. And there I am walking down the street like I am insane walking down the street. I need fresh air, I said to myself, but this is crazy. Like it would be like slush, literally slush falling from the sky, and then it turns to ice when it hits the ground. And then I woke up today bright and early at 10, and what do I discover? It's like 10 degrees out. It's so freaking, I went outside to get the newspapers bright and early at 10:15, D, and it was so cold. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, what's the rush to open school? Let me just remind you. I think the last I saw 20% of kids will return. 20%. And by the way, we're not even talking about high school. They haven't figured that one out. Only 20%. That's those who say they will return, like if the weather's semi-nice. I don't know who's going to show up in this. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be like all next week, D. It's going to be below zero or at zero. Now I know what you're going to say, Dennis. I can see your mind. Go, Ben, we're tough. We're tough in Chicago. A little cold doesn't bother us. A little slush falling from the sky, instantly turning the ice does not deter us. I don't know about that. I got a feeling a lot of people just want to stay home. I know, utter madness. I feel that the CTU and Lori Lightfoot are just going to fight constantly. And by the way, Lori Lightfoot, I got to say this. I woke up this morning and I go, I've been too negative to Lori Lightfoot. So I'm going to start being nice to Lori Lightfoot today, okay?
Today, right. Okay.
This is my whole thing about being nice. You're going to hear it's going to be a theme running through today's show. So be nice to Lori Lightfoot. You know, I will defend Lori Lightfoot in this. There's a lot of people whispering in her ear. You know, some of them are not even whispering, they're shouting, be tough. Don't let him give an inch. Who runs this city, you or Jesse Sharkey? That was a John Cass editorial the other day. Jesse Sharkey should be the mayor because he calls the shots. Can you imagine how upset Lori Lightfoot was when she saw that? I'm the mayor, not Jesse Sharkey. And then you got the Tribune editorial board and the Sun-Times editorial board. Don't listen to those teachers. Send them back to the classroom. So it's motivated her, D. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's anybody in her political universe that has anything resembling a pigeon, a smidgen, I should say, not a pigeon. A pigeon's a bird. A smidgen of sympathy for the Chicago Teachers Union. So yeah, you know, it's like she's been influenced by a lot of people. There, how about that, D? I'm being really nice to Lori. She's been influenced by the powers that be in the city. And then I got to give a shout out. I don't know who writes Janice Jackson's Twitter feed, but she came up with a pretty good one, a good tweet, which the Sun-Times put in their newspaper. I don't know if you saw this, D. Jackson and Lightfoot have repeatedly quoted studies showing reopening schools is generally safe. Jackson tweeted Thursday that, quote, at this point, finding a public health expert who opposes in-person learning is like finding a scientist who doesn't believe in climate change. End of quote. Actually, not a bad line. When I read that, Dave, oh, that's a good line. That's a good line. Although it's not accurate. Just going to say, Dr. Howard Ehrman repeatedly has denounced the city's plans to force everybody to go back to school. So not everybody agrees that this is perfectly safe. And I will point this out, very important point. Public health experts who talk about going back to public schools are speaking in generalities. They don't know anything about the city of Chicago. I would love to lead public health experts on a tour of the schools of the city of Chicago. Get them to read some of the inner office, the memos that the central office sends out to its teachers. Let's see if the water is working in this school today. Is it hot water? If it's cold water? Let's see if the engineer is wearing a mask, or did he just forget it? Let's see if there's a dead mouse lying in the classroom. Sorry, Jay Marie. So these public health
experts, now he's just picking on you, Jay Marie.
These public health experts, they're like talking about something like in the abstract. They've never been to Chicago. Except for Howard Ehrman. It's the one. So it's funny, the one public health expert who knows something about Chicago says don't open the schools. All the public health experts who don't live in Chicago say, sure, go back. What the heck? Anyway, it was a great line. So there you go, D. I'm closing out the weekend by being really nice to Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Funny line, Janice Jackson. I don't know who wrote it. I'll give you credit for it. I'm sure you do your own Twitter.
Well, we do have some breaking news. We'll see where that positivity stands after that.
Oh, here goes the positivity.
The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. Nader Issa and Sophie Sherry. The headline reads, CTU says city's final offer falls short, wants to keep bargaining on school reopening. Hours after Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Chicago Public Schools officials said they made their last, best, and final offer to the Chicago Teachers Union in school reopening negotiations. The union said the proposal was, quote, still deficient on the most critical safety issues. They're teachers. They love big words. CPS's offer fell short in a number of key areas in the union's view, according to a draft of an email that was obtained by the Chicago Sun-Times and scheduled to be sent to members Friday afternoon. CTU leadership didn't, quote, consider it a serious proposal.
I'm not surprised. First of all, no one's going to school tomorrow. It's Saturday. And really, who wants to go to school next week anyway? It's going to be like 0. So, yeah, spend the rest of the week with more meetings. I'm starting to think that the negotiating team over CTU secretly enjoys these meetings with the HR guys, D. Just throwing that out there. Sounds like utter torture to me. So, D, I got a feeling we'll be discussing this next week.
All right. Live stream chat. What's going on? How's it going? I was expecting you to say more about that, so it caught me a little off guard. All right, moving on. More city news. Let's see here. Ben Stahl.
I'm just looking out the window at the snow, at the ice, and someone freezing in the alley. And I believe the next item you were going to discuss.
There we go. More Chicago news. And yes, more news involving the mayor. And boy, I tell you, the relationship between Mayor Lightfoot and her city council members sure is an interesting one. A lot of drama. Earlier in the week, City Council floor leader Gilbert Villegas became former City Council floor leader Gilbert Villegas. And he said, to hell with this, and handed in his resignation. And you know, the mayor didn't seem to need a cooling off period for this one, because right after the news dropped, she was already welcoming her new floor leader, Alderwoman Michelle Harris, with open arms. Get lost, Villegas. Am I right, Madam Mayor? And leave it to the top city beat reporter to get the interview with the new city council floor leader first. In her latest episode of the Fran Spielman Show, Fran Spielman sat down and talked one-on-one with Harris about her new gig. She wrote about it in the Sun-Times as well. And we're going to talk about what she talked about, and I'll read what she wrote, and Ben, you talk about what I wrote about, what she talked about and wrote about, and then I'll maybe talk about what you talked about from what Fran talked and wrote about. How's that sound?
Oh, my God. Wow. That sounds like Governor Pritzker explaining the various phase one. So mixed up. Wait a minute. Is phase 1 like the good one, or is phase 4 the bad one? I'm all mixed up. Go ahead.
People, pass the popcorn, because it's time for episode 255 of everyone's favorite daily Chicago political soap opera, A Mayor and Her Alderman.
A Mayor and Her Alderman.
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Here's the piece from Fran Spielman. The headline reads, Harris faces uphill battle as Lightfoot's new city council floor leader. Alderwoman Michelle Harris, been of what ward?
8th.
Oh, God, you're good. Alderman Michelle Harris knows how to clean up somebody else's mess from the 3 years she spent as sanitation superintendent in her ward. Now she'll try to do the same for Mayor Lori Lightfoot by cleaning up the mess the mayor made of her relationship with the city council. Harris, who turns 60 in December, is the antithesis of the combative mayor she serves. She's one of the council's most genuine and likable members. But picking up garbage and removing snow is a whole lot easier than cleaning up somebody else's political mess. Get it, Fran? So now we have quotes from Michelle Harris on her new job. First, she spoke about the infighting and the high school-like behavior of her colleagues in the city council. New Vice Principal Harris said, quote, people's personalities are what they are. It's my job to keep everybody in the room talking to each other. That's as much as I'm going to be able to do, to move the conversations forward on both sides. Harris went on to say about working with Lightfoot, quote, I'm going to help her move her agenda forward. That's what I'm here for. She's going to help me move her agenda forward. It's a two-way street. It's all in the mayor's lap now. The relationship is all in the mayor's lap. I don't feel like I can solve the world's problems, and I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to work with all of my colleagues. Fran then asked Harris, how can a floor leader be effective without the currency of politics needed to round up votes? Harris said only that she would do her best to, quote, solve people's problems, even when it comes to the 6-member Socialist Caucus, whose left-wing views could not be more different than her own. Harris said, quote, whether the socialists want to work with me or not, I want to work with them. For now. They get to sit down at the table. They get to say, put my food on the plate.
Okay. Where do I start? First of all, I think you called her actually Vice Principal Harris.
Yeah, it was a joke because
Vice President.
The high school like behavior. She's the vice principal. Mayor Lightfoot will be the principal.
Whoa, that was like a really deep joke that worked at many levels. Many thoughts on this. Number one, I don't know what the last floor leader did that was so bad. I'm not really sure that floor leader is the issue here. The issue is that the city council is much different than the one that existed in previous administrations. And then this thing about socialism. All right, let's take it. Let me start with the socialists first. I find that really just mind-boggling that a Democratic alderman, from the 8th Ward on the south side of Chicago, would say that the socialists' views, the Democratic socialists of the city council, couldn't be more different than hers. How? I would think that like the Fraternal Order Police's views couldn't be more different than the alderwoman of the 8th Ward. But how are the Democratic Socialist views more different? Democratic Socialists want less inequity in the city of Chicago, want funds more evenly and fairly distributed. Is that something that people in the 8th District, the 8th Ward are against? The Democratic Socialists want police who beat up people or shoot people held accountable for the actions. Is that something that the alderwoman of the 8th Ward would be against? The Democratic Socialists of the city council want more money spent on things like nurses and librarians in our public schools. Is that something that the alderwoman of the 8th Ward would be against? The Democratic Socialists of Chicago do not want $1.3 billion dedicated in property taxes dedicated to the development of an upscale project in an already gentrifying neighborhood. Now, the alderwoman of the 8th Ward voted for that, but I got a feeling most of the residents in the 8th Ward would be against it. And the only reason that they haven't expressed their opposition to it is because Chicago mayors have done a masterful job of covering up these corporate handouts to the well-to-do. So I can't think of really any issue that the socialist alderman in the city council and an alderwoman from the 8th Ward on the south side would be against, would be opposing. I can't think of one. It's so bizarre that somehow or other, the leaders of this city, the political leaders of the city, Michelle Harris is very much Lori Lightfoot's ally, obviously, she's now the floor leader, would feel compelled to isolate the socialists as though they're some kind of weird collection of political creatures that are just alien to their wards. One of the leaders of that socialist group is the great Jeanette Taylor of the 20th Ward, which is right down the street from Michelle Harris's ward. Are you telling me you, Michelle Harris, disagree with Jeanette Taylor on the issues of the day? So right now, just buying into this notion, we talked about this earlier, where the mayor, her purpose right now is to isolate the left in this city as like it's some kind of demonic fringe, like the equivalent, like there's equivalency between the left and the right, like Trumpers and Carlos Ramirez Rosa. You know, like everyone in the middle will come to her. And I just think that's really unfair to the Carlos Ramirez Rosas of the world. They're the ones who are fighting for the things that people supposedly want in the city of Chicago. I don't know anybody in the city of Chicago who believes we should continue to have an unequal situation in our public schools. In fact, I just heard Mayor Lori Lightfoot yesterday passionately extolling the need to break down the barriers of inequity in the public schools. Got to get the kids back in school, she said, so that the gap doesn't continue to expand. Well, who wants that more than the socialists in the Chicago City Council? And yet they're treated like these alien creatures from outer space. That really rubs me the wrong way. I guess it's because I'm a lefty, D. It just exacerbates the reality in Chicago. Everybody speaks up for the need to do away with the vestiges of racism and inequity. But when you actually try to do something about it, they call you a troublemaker. They call you a lefty. They call you some weirdo. They call you a socialist. They dropped the Democrat from social. You notice that? The socialist members. So I just find Chicago a very baffling place. And it's funny, I didn't hear him talking about the far-right members of the Chicago City Council and the need to try to win them over. In that last budget battle, it was 29 to 21. Mayor got 29 votes to pass it. That's all she needed. She didn't need a 50-0 vote. She had to pass her budget. She passed her budget. When it was all over, I remember what did she say, D? She's going to drink, was it whiskey or bourbon and smoke a cigar. Remember that? I remember smoking the cigar, and it was some kind of celebratory drink because she passed her budget. And I gave her credit for passing her budget. It was wheeling and dealing, et cetera, and so forth. But the opposition wasn't just socialists. There were folks from the right who were really upset with her having to do with police issues. And they were kind of following John Canizera's lead on this because they realized, like Alderman Marty Quinn in the 13th Ward or Alderman Anthony Napolitano in the 41st Ward. These are outlying wards in the city of Chicago. They realized that they were vulnerable to threats by the Fraternal Order of Police to run opposition candidates. Matt O'Shea of the 19th Ward. But you know what? They're not. It's very interesting. Those aldermen aren't the one who are being demonized in this current situation. Why don't you just be honest and say the Chicago City Council is at a more evolved place in its existence where aldermen don't feel compelled to do whatever the mayor tells them. I think that's generally a healthy thing for democracy. So this notion that somehow or other there's something wrong with the city of Chicago because the mayor's not winning budgets by votes of 50-0, I think is absurd. And goes against everything we've been saying. We don't want the aldermen to be rubber stamps. Now we want them to be rubber stamps. So I told you, this is going to be my day of giving Alderman Lightfoot credit. First, I gave Janice Jackson credit for a very funny tweet, even if it was inaccurate. Gave her credit, right, D? Okay. Now I'm going to give Lori Lightfoot credit. Things have changed in the Chicago City Council. There are aldermen on the left who are not just going to support the mayor. They were elected by their constituents not to be rubber stamps. And so she has to negotiate with them and has to win them over. And she won Andre Vasquez over in the 40th Ward. And it's different than when Mayor Rahm and Mayor Daley were the mayors. The aldermen cowered in fear for these all-powerful mayors. So I give Lori Lightfoot credit. She negotiated a very difficult terrain. I don't know what Michelle Harris is going to do any different than Villegas, because ultimately it's Lori Lightfoot you're negotiating with, not whichever alderman or alderwoman gets the title of the mayor's floor leader.
Okay.
Wait,
what's
do
that?
you have anything more on this story right here?
Yes, I do. So
Go ahead.
So we know how Harris feels about the mayor. Let's hear about how the mayor feels about Harris and her aldermanic colleagues. Another day, another Fran Spielman column. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said Thursday that voters gave her, quote, a mandate to change the status quo, not to win a popularity contest with the city council, and traced her contentious relationship with aldermen to her refusal to buy votes. 2 days after changing floor leaders, a defiant Lightfoot denied her combative personality had turned her contentious relationship with the city council from bad to worse. Lightfoot said she replaced Gilbert Villegas, the 36th ward, with Alderwoman Michelle Harris before she had even reached midterm because Villegas, quote, came to me in good faith and said he wanted to focus on other issues. But the mayor openly acknowledged what she called the, quote, style point. That is the contentious relationship she established by using her inaugural address to portray the city council as corrupt, issuing an executive order stripping aldermen of their prerogative over licensing and permitting, and disdaining the horse trading that is the currency of politics. She said, quote, I don't buy votes. I never have and never will. I manage every vote to 26. If I wanted to run up votes, I could buy votes and offer taxpayers money to buy votes. I don't buy votes. She said, quote, I'm different in every single way than any other mayor that's ever been here before. Some folks are comfortable with that. Some are not. But I'm not here for a popularity contest with the city council.
All right. When she talks about buying votes is an age-old process in the Chicago City Council, and buying votes in quotes, D, right? And they go on further in the article. I bring in Pat O'Connor to say it's not literally like giving someone a bribe. Pat O'Connor used to be the alderman in the 40th ward, used to be Mayor Rahm's, Mayor Daley's floor leader, so he's not saying literally giving them money for a vote. It's like, hey, let's negotiate. You want my vote in the budget? Well, I happen to have a street that needs repaved. Could sure use some TIF money for that. Or I have this big development deal I want to put together. Sure could use the okay for that. I remember Rick Munoz used to tell me, yeah, Ben, I voted for the mayor's budget, but I was wheeling and dealing on behalf of my ward. So that's what they mean by buying votes. I don't know, D, it seems pretty much 101 of Democratic politics, small d. Republicans do it all the time. Ronald Reagan, the hero of the Republican Party. And I'm not saying, I'm not condoning this. I'm just explaining what happened. When he was trying to round up Democratic votes to support his war against the Sandinistas in Nicaragua in the 1980s, ancient history for many of you out there, but he was trying to get support from Democrats. He called up William Lipinski, who was the father of Daniel Lipinski, and Lipinski had already said he was going to, he was a conservative Democrat from the Southwest side. He already said he was going to support Reagan, and Reagan essentially said, well, what do you need? Anything you need? And Lipinski said, hey, it's funny you should mention that. We could use some funding for the CTA. And that's the legend of how we got federal funding for the line that goes out to Midway Airport. It was traded and swapped for a vote on the Contras. I didn't see anybody condemning that, except for lefties like myself, who are disappointed with Bill Lipinski voting for aid for the Contras. But I didn't see anybody else, the mainstream, condemning that. That's just democracy. I need your vote. What's it going to take? And somebody would say, oh, that's wasteful spending. Well, it may be because you don't live in that district. Somebody may think like building a subway line to Midway is wasteful spending. Yeah, if you live in Nebraska, but if you live on the Southwest side, finally, we got a subway line that cuts through the Southwest side of Chicago for you. Folks, anybody who's old enough to remember, back in the 70s, taking an Archer bus was the only connection, 70s and early 80s, from the Southwest side to the Loop. So yes, it was an important contribution to Chicago's development that extension to Midway was constructed. So I just feel like there's a bad name giving to horse trading and using your leverage to get something for your district. I think that's democracy with a small d. And so it's I think Lori Lightfoot is giving that a bad name. Oh, I was supposed to say nice things and only nice things about Lori Lightfoot today, D. I just kind of missed let's just take that out of for the podcast, right? No, but seriously, Lori Lightfoot's just giving a bad name to what's just standard behavior in the Chicago City Council, in the Illinois General Assembly, in Congress in Washington. Then she has this whole secondary thing about alderman and prerogative. Are you going to get into that one, D?
That's it.
All right. Well, alderman and prerogative. I may write a story about this. I think Lori Lightfoot made a mistake when she came down so hard on alderman and prerogative and said that from here on out she was going to get rid of it, and that zoning decisions, et cetera, and so forth would be determined by bureaucrats in City Hall. I completely disagree with that, as you folks know. I believe that local aldermen should be sort of the quarterbacks of these zoning matters in their own wards. Otherwise, just get rid of the aldermen. There's no need to have aldermen. That's their main function. They're elected in part according to how they handle these. Often they could be really contentious disputes where two sides are at each other's throats and aldermen have to broker some peace or side with one over the other and pay the consequences. But to put that in the hands of some unknown bureaucrat at City Hall makes no sense to me. It's very undemocratic. And I just think Lori Lightfoot, again, listening to the wrong people. And in this case, I can't be more sympathetic for her because it was across the board denunciation of alderman and prerogative. Even lefties lost their mind temporarily. I used to argue with a bunch of them. I don't hear that argument that much anymore, D. It's interesting. So I could see she antagonized a lot of aldermen when she did that. And really, there's nothing Michelle Harris can do about that. She can sing pretty songs. She can blow up balloons, whatever. That's not Gilbert Villegas' fault. It wasn't his fault that Lori Lightfoot took a strong stand against alderman and prerogative. So I think the mayor might want to reconsider that one. Just like she may want to reconsider her relationship with Stacey Davis Gates and the Chicago Teachers Union.
An alderman who blows up balloons. That'd be pretty cool.
Yes. Blows up balloons. I think that's what they said. Didn't yesterday's story, didn't they talk about balloons? I don't know.
Let's talk statewide news. And Ben, for once, I think I may enjoy this. A hellacious snowstorm barreled through Illinois this week. Let's hear more about it. It's time for Ben's favorite weekly segment. We've played it for about 4 weeks now, and every time, oh God, it's so boring. But I'm curious what he has to say here. It's our weekly Illinois weather report with state climatologist Trent Ford. And listeners, I don't know, maybe give yourself like a good slap in the face if you get a little sleepy here. Take it away, Trent Ford.
From the Illinois State Water Survey at the University of Illinois Prairie Research Institute, this is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford. Average temperatures this past week range from the low 20s in northern Illinois to the mid 30s in southern Illinois, between 1 and 5 degrees above normal for this time of the year. This week capped off a warmer than normal January, with a statewide average January temperature about 2.5 degrees above the 1981 to 2010 normal. This past week was also much more active on the precipitation side. 7-day totals range from about 1/4 of an inch in northwestern Illinois to over 1.5 inches in central Illinois. 7-day snowfall totals range from just over 1/10 of an inch along a line stretching from Calhoun to Gallatin County, all the way up.
Okay, I can't take it.
Wait. I really like the precipitation part of that report, T. It's a little wetter than it usually is. We need an update. We need an update right now from Trent Ford on how cold it's going to be for the next week. D. Can you work on that a little bit?
I'll work on that. I'll work on that. Hey, that's our local news, guys. Remember, you can find the Ben Joravsky Show at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. If you want us to read your voicemail on the show, leave your name and where you're from. Very helpful. You can also call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. 708-658-4788. That number again is 708-658-4788. We would love to hear from you. Also, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. Don't forget about it, and so much more. ChicagoReader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. Oh, got the siren there. Good God, get us back in the... We need a studio. All right. Ben, anything you'd like to add here before we take a break?
Well, there was one story in the Sun-Times that caught my attention, and long wait for mail. Oh, my God, my heart goes out to these folks in Englewood. Some of them haven't gotten mail in 2 weeks. And so they had a protest outside a post office on South Ashland Avenue, 65th and South Ashland and Englewood. Several aldermen showed up. I don't blame them. It's nothing more frustration when the mail stops. And one thing they did say, they go, well, this will never happen on the north side. I just have to say, very generally, I would agree with you 100% on that one. But I've seen some screw ups in the U.S. mail on the north side as well. I just want to say back in oh my God, and then I've lost track of time. I did so many stories about the mail service in the Edgewater area. Folks were always calling me up. It's terrible. It's horrible. And just in general, things have gotten much worse in the last 4 years. Obviously, Donald Trump cutting funding for the post office and just really making life miserable. And I've always just believed, this is the New Deal Democrat MED, let's fortify the post office. Let's hire more mail letter carriers, great jobs, pay good benefits, good, strong union jobs. Would really fortify a community to have people. And I know I'm biased in this one. I used to work for the post office. My father used to work for the post office. My sister worked for a lot of post workers and my background. But just great jobs. And it's just seems so detrimental to be cutting the post office as much as it is. That said, the most bizarre thing happened to me, and I told Dennis about this. Very weird thing happened to me the other day. This mystery, a baffling mystery. It was my wife's birthday, and my daughter sent my wife a box, which was filled with all kinds of knickknacks and birthday presents, candles, and a book, and a letter. A really nice note that they wrote. So they were going to have this moment where the box would arrive and my wife would call my daughters and she would open the box and pull out all the little presents they bought for her, like little jewelry, that kind of thing. Nothing tremendously monetarily valuable, but all just really important stuff that my daughters were giving to my wife, and everybody was going to enjoy it. It's going to be a beautiful thing. My wife opened the box and all the things that my daughters had put in the box were gone. Instead, they were replaced by these knitted scarves. And somewhere along the line, I took a picture and I showed this to Dennis. Somewhere along the lines between California, where the box was mailed, and Chicago, where, of course, it was delivered to us, somebody opened the box, took all the trinkets and stuff out, and the books and the candles, what have you, that my daughter had packed in, and replaced them with knitted scarves. It's like something out of the Twilight Zone. Like, who would do something like that? Was it kind of bizarre joke? I mean, if you were to steal the things that were in the box, first of all, they're not that valuable. They're only valuable to my wife and my daughters, really. It's not great monetary value to them. But I kind of think that the scarves may, if you add up the price tag, they may be more valuable than what was in the box. Very weird. Like a weird, bizarre twist and turn. So I was thinking about that when I saw that story about the post office. The post office is having some rough times indeed. I know there's a tendency for lefties like myself to blame everything on Donald Trump, but Donald Trump really did let government go to hell. I was part of that whole government, that whole anti-government worldview of the Republican Party. And so let's hope under Biden, the post office gets a little more funding and can get its act together.
All right, everybody, don't go anywhere. When we come back, Rummana Hussain will join us with the Rummana Rundown. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from my apartment in Ben's attic.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Large retail and e-commerce companies have made it easy for consumers to buy just about anything and everything online. But there's a new company in Chicago that is helping small businesses compete with the big guys so they can offer the same flexibility and speed of receiving their purchases. La Move is an app-based, same-day courier service that helps with delivery for small businesses. The goal at La Move is simple: help local Chicago small businesses by providing affordable delivery for their customers. La Move merges the rideshare model with courier services to deliver anything from flowers to furniture and everything in between. Right now, La Move is offering free delivery for 1 month. Visit lalamove.com. That's LALAmove.com to learn more.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Benny J, take it away. You're on mute, dog.
Yeah.
Got to do that when the train goes by.
There we go.
Every Friday on the Ben Joravsky Show, Rummana Hussain joins us from the Chicago Sun-Times, editor columnist from the Chicago Sun-Times. Welcome back to the show, Rummana.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Cold. Yeah, I'm very cold. Very cold. And here in my little attic apartment. And I will be cold for the next week. And Rummana, I don't go anywhere anyway, as you know, and it's gotten worse with the pandemic. We had this great conversation, by the way. It was Gregory Pratt was on the show from the Tribune, City Hall reporter, outstanding City Hall reporter. And we were talking, this is a tangent, a total tangent, Rummana, but we were talking about the teacher's opposition to going back to the classroom. I think it was Gregory said, it may have been somebody else who said it, so I apologize, Gregory, for putting words into your mouth. But somebody said, you know, with each passing day, it gets harder and harder for a lot of people. And I know I'm speaking for myself to even think about leaving the house. I feel as though I'm worse in that situation right now here in the first week of February, almost a full year into the pandemic than I was, like, let's say last March. And the cold doesn't help in any way. But Rummana, I'm like lodged in this freaking house. Do you feel the same way?
I feel locked, but I'm ready to go out. I mean, working is probably going to be a little more trickier because I do say I miss it, but I know I'll complain once I actually have to get up a little earlier and get ready for work and, you know, pack my lunch and do all that stuff and then, you know, commute. But I do miss going out. I jump at the chance of going out and seeing someone outside for a few minutes or seeing my mom for a few minutes. I jump at the chance. I can go out even for a few minutes, even if it's cold. I know the cold stops people, but I don't know. I need social interaction. So I try to jump at the chance. I mean, 99.9% of the time I'm stuck inside my house, but I feel claustrophobic and just shut in. So I'm ready to go out. Not that this has anything to do with the teachers union or, you know, the fact that they have to go to school, but I'm just saying, me personally, I'm ready to be back to normal, but I know it's going to be a while before that happens.
Yeah, and I got to say, this Rummana was one of the more social people at the Chicago Sun-Times. When we had our studio, she was one of the friendliest people. Everybody talking to people, so yeah, it must be very difficult to take you out of that work environment and put you in your apartment there on the north side of Chicago.
Yeah, I'm a total extrovert. I think you are too. I kind of feel like you're more an extrovert too. So I feel more drained. I know introverts feel drained interacting with people. I feel drained just being inside and locked out.
I think I'm an extrovert too. I'm kind of a weird extrovert. That's just a tangent within a tangent. Like, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I don't want to talk to anybody because I'm just walking down this. So I literally cross the street when I see something. But you put me in an office, I see other people. You know what I mean? It's like when I was at the Bright One, that come into the Sun-Times, say hello to the receptionist. You see various editors walking through. Hey, what's going on, my man? You know, so yeah, I guess I do miss that as well. All right, let's get down to business here. And you were the one who sent this to me and alerted me to this tweet theme that was going around about AOC. Everybody knows I love AOC. And I make no secret about that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman from New York City, I think she's a great model that I wish all our congresspeople would emulate her fearlessness in standing up for her left of center beliefs as opposed to like couching them and like centrist rhetoric. And she was pretty honest about the impact that the siege on Congress on January 6th had on her because she was a survivor of sexual assault. I didn't realize any of this, Rummana.
I don't think anybody knew about that. I mean, not that it's anybody's business, but I don't think she brought it up until she talked about it on Instagram.
Yeah, so she said it triggered her, and then there was a counterattack, which I found really offensive. And you were the one who alerted to me. You said it was trending on Twitter. AOC Smollett. Explain what that means.
What's your favorite topic, Smollett? You know, you say you're sick of it, but then you always want to talk about it. So obviously anybody who's been living in Chicago, unless they're under a rock, knows about the Jussie Smollett case, which actually hasn't been talked about in a long time, but, you know, it's still going through the court system. But this is an actor from the show Empire, which doesn't exist anymore, I think, but it's former actor who said that he was attacked by two white men and had racial and homophobic slurs thrown at him, and that these guys put a noose around his head. But police say that he had fabricated the allegations and actually hired two guys that he knew to stage the attack. And then the story probably would have died, but then the state's attorney's office ended up dropping the charges against him because he was eventually charged with lying to police. Then those charges were dropped by the state's attorney's office, and that became a big point during the elections, Kim Foxx, re-election. And then he was charged as a prosecutor involved. Obviously, the allegations are that Jussie Smollett lied, exaggerated the claims. So a lot of these individuals who are criticizing AOC about, you know, her in Capitol Hill, you know, crouching down in another congresswoman's office, I believe, they were saying she was exaggerating and, you know, making up lies about herself being attacked and then putting herself at the center of attention. So that was basically the gist of the attacks. I didn't specifically look on Twitter, but I just saw, like, you know, one day I saw something about AOC Smollett, and then the other day I saw something like about her lies. So there were a lot of people. I mean, the fact that it was trending on Twitter that were talking about this. I think even Glenn Greenwald, who's been criticized. He's like a lefty.
Yes.
He's a lefty reporter, but he's been criticized a lot in the last couple of years because he ended up leaving The Intercept, what company he founded. But anyway, I think people were saying that he was imitating AOC's, like, you know, using baby voice to imitate her. And they thought that he was being, you know, kind of dismissing her too. So I saw that he was trending on Twitter for doing that. So it became like this bigger story just because of the attacks against AOC and the story that she posted on Instagram.
Yeah, well, by linking her to Jussie Smollett, and yes, Rummana, you're absolutely correct. As they say, the lady doth protest too much. I'm always saying, oh, no more Smollett talk, and I can't get enough. But by linking her to Jussie Smollett, it was clearly an attempt to say that, oh, here they go again, those lefties, they're making stuff up, just like Jussie Smollett made up that story about being attacked by MAGA hat wearers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part of the story.
Yeah, that was the link. Like, yeah. So she's making up stuff. He made up stuff. That's what lefties do. They just make stuff up. When in reality, she was expressing some that fears and concerns she had that were triggered by the siege. And I don't know if you saw this, but AP, one of the reporters for the Associated Press, went through and did one of their little fact checks, and said that it corroborated everything she said. But it's so clear, Rummana, that that the Republicans are trying to do with AOC to turn her into some kind of Democratic equivalent of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
I personally am offended by that because I believe that AOC lives in the worlds of facts, that she's accountable for the things she says. She doesn't make unwarranted ad hominem attacks on other people. And she deals with like provable things. You may disagree with her worldview, you may disagree with her proposals, but she's just not making up bizarre theories about like lasers from space causing forest fires and being paid for by Jewish bankers. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I just think it's really unfair. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, I'm okay with espousing my opinion on, the comparisons. I think it's ridiculous. AOC isn't going out there aligning herself with QAnon conspiracy theories. She's not saying explicitly anti-black comments, anti-Semitic comments, Islamophobic comments. Just it goes down the list about what Marjorie Taylor Greene has said or tweeted. And yeah, just, it's, AOC, does she, spout off against people who are attacking her or politicians who she doesn't agree with? Sure. But she's usually, when she's tweeting about them, she's, going boom, 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 like here's a thread about why this is wrong. And she like definitely explains it. Whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's based on hate. I'm sorry. That's the way I see it. It's all based on hate and hating people that don't look like her, who aren't white and Christian. That's what it comes off to someone like me. And, AOC isn't going after people that just look like, going after people who don't just look like her. She's going after, certain things that she thinks are unequal. And I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with her either. Like you said, I don't have to agree with someone's politics. Even if someone is a right winger and they believe certain things, there are certain things they're not supposed to be saying. They're not supposed to be making hateful comments against someone else. And if it was any other person, if it was one of the squad members saying the same kind of things, anti-Semitic comments, anti-Black comments, would we even have someone like that elected into Congress? I don't know. We probably wouldn't.
No,
if it was a personal color, I want to say.
Yeah, I have to say that I don't think it's working. I don't think that most Americans would equate AOC with Marjorie Taylor Greene. But no. I think what it does do is give MAGA that whatever it is, 40% of the voting population, we can discuss what portion of the voting population it actually is. It just reinforces their worldview that somehow or other they're being picked on. And there's a double standard that allows AOC to be AOC, but punishes Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's what I object to, the false equivalency.
I agree. I disagree with a lot of the false equivalency arguments that have come out in the last 4 years, especially when it comes to hateful things that come out of certain people's mouths.
All right. Speaking of which, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I thought there was a very good column written by your colleague, Lynn Sweet, your friend Lynn Sweet, in today's Sun-Times. And it gets to Adam Kinzinger. Kinzinger, one of the few Republicans to take stand against Greene's garbage, is the headline. As I told you in the pre-show, whoa, that's, I like that, Sun-Times. Going right, let it be known. It is garbage. I will now read to you Marjorie Taylor Greene's opening remarks defending herself before the House voted to kick her off committees. Lynn Sweet quotes it in the Sun-Times column. And get your thoughts on what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. So this is our opening line. I've already talked about this on the show. Love to get your thoughts. Quote, I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them. And that is absolutely what I regret. Because if it wasn't for Facebook's posts and comments that I, quote, liked in 2018, I wouldn't be standing here today, and you couldn't point a finger and accuse me of anything wrong because I've lived a very good life that I'm proud of, end of quote. I was allowed to believe things that weren't true. What
does that mean? And then she said something like, I distance myself from past comments, but she never really apologized. And if anybody saw the mask that she was wearing when she was at the Capitol yesterday, it was a mask that said free speech. So what kind of message is she sending? It was all confusing and complex. I did read the stories yesterday about her non-apology apology.
Yeah, I was allowed. So she's blaming somebody. I'm trying to figure out like who is responsible. Like I was allowed to believe things that weren't true. That is really bizarre phraseology. Like who allowed her to do that? Like who's the evil person that allowed her to do something that she shouldn't have done? You get what I'm saying? Like who is she blaming?
Yeah, it's just semantics. I guess she's just saying that she was swayed by what she saw, but isn't that your fault for not looking into what was posted on Facebook? When you see something, I mean, even like, sometimes there's like these kind of like these satirical news organizations, and they post articles and they're pretty funny. And these are organizations that aren't The Onion, and they're kind of like, they make it look like they're an actual news story, and they're usually funny. And I've seen people post them and you think they're real, but then you look at the bottom of the story, it's like not exactly like that news organization. You're like, this is actually satire. And, people catch on to it pretty quick. So if you really wanted to look into any sort of bizarre theory about whether, there's some sort of pedophile ring going on in DC, or, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying like random things, you can look into whether there's investigations or where these allegations came from. Like where was the seed planted? Look into that.
Yeah, I don't know who planted those seeds in Marjorie Taylor's Greene's head. She doesn't seem to be ripping the seeds. What grew from those seeds out, by the way. She just said someone planted them, and then she keeps repeating it. So it's very
That's true. That's true. And she got placed on committees, and yesterday obviously she was stripped of her committee positions, but I still think it's crazy that she got elected into Congress. But this, like I said, we've talked about the riots on Capitol Hill on January 6th. I just posted a story on the Sun-Times website. An AP poll, along with another organization, said that 50% of Americans don't agree with Trump's impeachment. So there's definitely still a lot of divisions and people believing things that they want to believe. And I think
50?
50.
Did you say as in 50, as in half the country?
Half. Yeah, half. So, I mean, and then I was reading, I was looking at the article, and there was just people just basically saying that how they believe that Donald Trump won the elections. This is like, the survey was taken just a few days ago. So this isn't going away anytime soon. This is what people believe.
Wow, that's astounding. And by the way, that leads me to my next topic. I talked about this earlier in the show as well. Smartmatic, the computer election company, has filed a defamation suit against Fox, $2.7 billion, I want to say, in regards to the notion that the election was stolen. Their lawsuit opens with this following sentence. The earth is round. 2 + 2 = 4. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the 2020 election for president and vice president of the United States. The election was not stolen, rigged, or fixed. These are facts. These are demonstrable and irrefutable. End of quote. And I think what you're sort of saying, Rummana, is that there's a fight right now in this country where one side, and I'm on that side, wants across the board declaration, a stipulation of facts that are irrefutable along the lines that the earth is round and 2 + 2 = 4. And that is that Biden and Kamala Harris won. And you're saying that the other side is not ready to make that stipulation, correct?
Yes, for sure. And we talked about Smartmatic. So they basically it's a defamation suit. It's the biggest libel case, or the amount, the 2.7 million is the largest amount. So they sued Fox News, 3 of the hosts, and 2 of former Trump's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. And I don't know if you knew, but they're not the only ones who have sued There's this also voting technology company called Dominion. They sued recently a few weeks ago, and their lawsuit is 1.3 billion because, these individuals had basically said that, they said that they had helped with stealing the election, which is, in these companies' argument can be thought of as libelous. So it'd be interesting to see what happens because, I know, I remember in college, we learned that libel cases are very hard to prove or people don't really win a lot of libel cases. So it'd be interesting to watch to see what's going to happen with these cases.
Yeah, what's your thoughts about as a journalist? When you see a $2.7 billion libel case against Rupert Murdoch's Fox?
Oh, I think it would be unprecedented if that amount, if definitely that amount came out. It'd be interesting to see what would happen. I guess it depends on who the judge is, but yeah, 2.7 billion, and as we talked about before, then maybe it's the money that might stop people from spreading misfacts. If in fact these companies do get a certain amount, I would think if they do get damages, it'd be in the millions. That's what I think. I don't know if it'd be in the thousands, but I'm just saying if I would think the judges, I'm not an expert on libel cases. I just know like as a layperson about the fact that it's really hard to prove these cases. But I would think given the situation that they would get some sort of money, just as from my perspective. I don't know if they're going to get the billions they want, but I would think millions, maybe thousands. I don't know. It'd be interesting. But yeah, I think if you play money into it, do you think Fox would change the way they operate?
No.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not. Well, time out. If you don't put money, if it wasn't,
that's what I mean. If they have to pay a certain amount in damages, don't you think that would change the way they think? Or
yes,
their behavior. What
yes,
be done.
Yeah, I have a guest that comes on the show all the time, Jim Coogan, is an attorney, and we talk about this many times. Like if you want to change people's behavior, one of the only few ways you have to wake them up is to file a lawsuit against them. I can't stand the thought of like tied up in court and journalists being punished and maybe even losing their jobs. But I mean, this is so egregious. That's the point of the lawsuit that begins by saying there's certain irrefutable facts like, the earth is round, 2 + 2 = 4. Joe Biden won. And the Republicans, it's really hard for them to let go of that. They don't want to concede that Donald Trump lost. And so much of the anger that the Republican supporters, MAGA, has is based on this notion that they were victimized in this last election. And so it's really driving this rift in the Republican Party because there's a small faction that wants the Republican parties to acknowledge that they lost and then move on from that. Because think about this, Rummana. If you acknowledge that you lost, then you have to say, well, what was it that we did that turned a majority of the people against us? If you say, no, they stole it from us, then you're saying we did nothing wrong. We don't have to change a thing. So we're going to continue to make anti-Semitic comments. We're going to continue to promote fear of Muslims. We're going to continue to denigrate immigrants because that's what people want to hear, because we won. We didn't really lose. Do you follow what I'm saying? So I think it undercuts democracy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have to say I do agree with you. I'm putting my opinion out there.
Well, you shouldn't say I have to say I agree with you. It's like it's such a bad thing.
I know, but I'm just saying, I like I said, I think as journalists, we do have to tell the truth, and that is the truth.
Yeah, the truth is that Joe Biden won.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not an opinion thing, but I'm just saying I agree with you in terms of what the Republicans are doing.
Yeah, it's going to cause them a lot of problems down the road. But when you say 50%, wow.
I'm pretty sure it's half of Americans. I'll send you the article afterwards.
Yeah, it could be one of those things.
It's a poll. Polls always have, they're not always accurate, but it's still, I still think whenever people say things like, oh, let's move on, let's unite, let's keep going forward. No, it's not that easy. And why would you unite with people who don't necessarily like you or hate you or want your existence off? Want your existence to be canceled out of America or don't think you're an American.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now, Rummana, what you said, and it could be that the most potent argument that the Republicans are raising has nothing to do with what Donald Trump did in the months after the election to perpetuate this lie that he lost, or what he did in particular on January 6th, firing up the mob. It could be that it has to do with the argument that he's not in office anymore, so therefore you can't impeach him. And the Sun-Times had an essay in it today by their libertarian writer. I don't know if you ever read the guy. That sometimes has a columnist who writes as a libertarian. I always get a kick out of it. Jacob Sullum is his name. The libertarian point of view. Libertarians are absolutely worthless in the fight to legalize drugs and marijuana. But anyway, there's certain things that they believe government should stay out of. And so he's making the argument that Congress does not have the right to impeach the president now that he's not in office. So maybe that's what that poll is getting at, sentiments that people have along those lines. Is that the case?
No, I don't think it is. I think they think he won the election, and they think he still should be president, and they shouldn't be doing this to him. But I think why the Democrats want to do this, or why people who are for impeachment, they want it to be symbolic. And if Donald Trump is impeached twice, he doesn't get like the Secret Service. He doesn't get Secret Service for the rest of his life. He's losing benefits. I think it's more of a symbolic gesture, if anything. It's not like, obviously we don't want the government to spend like days and weeks on this, but I think they want to do this to, express that, they've been just, everybody's disappointed, or more than that's an understatement, about what's happened in the last 4 years. It's unprecedented what happened, and what, people think it basically was a disgrace. So I think the Democrats are just going to do, I think it's a symbolic gesture, if anything.
Yeah. And also there's I don't believe they will vote to convict. I just don't believe that they're going to find 17 Republicans to join. But if they do, then you can also have a secondary vote to prohibit Donald Trump from serving in office again. Yeah. Which you think the Republicans would kind of be relieved by that. That would free things up for them. But it's MAGA still loves Trump, so they're going to have to deal with him. All right, let's move on to the Golden Globes. They came out with their nominees, and some controversy there. Talk about that.
Yeah, your favorite movie, Mank. Well, you were disappointed. You're disappointed with it, but it got a lot of nominations. There's a lot of controversy. Well, first of all, I want to say that the Golden Globes were always seen as a joke for years, for decades, because the Foreign Press Association, it's kind of like anybody can become a member of the Foreign Press Association. You can just write in like this like newsletter that you made, and then you can just join. That's what someone told me. And after NBC started airing the Golden Globes, I would say in the 80s or 90s, then it started becoming a bigger deal, and people started taking it more seriously. But in a way, it's kind of sad, because it sometimes influences the Oscar results as well. So that's why people say it's kind of skewed. And then, people say contests don't mean anything. The best movies don't always win. And so this year, the Golden Globes, I know, was panned earlier, which is really funny because it's called the Foreign Press Association. They put this one Korean American movie, Minari, that hasn't been streaming yet, but everybody's talking about it. They put it in the category, instead of like best film, because it's getting a lot of buzz, as best foreign film. And it was filmed in America. It's based on a Korean American family. So it got criticized for that. And then there was a lot of shows, including I May Destroy You, which I recommended on the show, HBO. That was totally snubbed. The Five Bloods was also snubbed. There's just so many other shows and movies that people were saying that should have gotten mentioned, didn't get mentioned. And then there was this one show on Netflix that everybody watched. They binge watched it. They said it was really dumb and light, but that got nominated. It was called Emily in Paris. I never watched it but a lot of people, it caused a lot of controversy in Chicago, because in the show, Lily Collins is she's Phil Collins' daughter, by the way, and she's also in Mank. She goes to live in Paris, and she used to live in Chicago, and they mentioned Lou Malnati's pizza, and they criticized it, the deep dish pizza. And then Lou Malnati's got into it and tweeted about it. And so it caused all these controversy. They had all these Chicago jokes taking aim at Chicago. So it caused a little controversy in Chicago. And a lot of people, made fun of the show, but that got nominated. So people are kind of I saw a lot of people criticizing the show the last couple of days. Emily in Paris are like, how did that get nominated, but not I May Destroy You? So there's just a lot of chatter, people just complaining. And then, I admit I did complain a little, but it wasn't something I was tweeting, but I will still watch it. It's going to be online, and it's been delayed a few more days. The Oscars have been delayed by a month, I think, and the Golden Globes have been delayed by a few weeks. So the Golden Globes are going to come on at a time when we're usually watching the Oscars, and it's going to be virtual. There's going to be 2 hosts. I think Amy Poehler's going to be on one end. And then I forgot, is it
Tina Fey?
Tina Fey. Oh, I didn't know it was her partner that was going to be, not her partner, but, her partner in crime was going to be on, and it's in another location. So I'm still going to watch. It's still fun to watch. I don't know how it's going to be in terms, I didn't watch the Emmys, so I don't know in terms of when they give awards, are people going to be dressed up at their homes or anything like that? But it'd be interesting to watch. So I admit I'll watch, but I did read about the controversy, and I know people said that the nominations brought more questions than people cheering.
Yeah, did you have one of those that really irritated you, like an oversight or giving awards to a show, or to give nominations to a show that really irritated you in particular?
I forgot. I looked at them really quick. I don't know if there's any shows that I really loved that were on there, from what I remember. But I have also been watching shows that are old, or shows that are in Paris by actual French people. So I think someone from what's that show that we're watching that you Call My Agent is actually in Emily in Paris.
Oh, is that right? I did not.
One of the agent's ex-wives is in Emily in Paris.
Oh,
so
okay. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is some of that crossover there, but yeah, I've been binge watching so many other shows that aren't necessarily from this year, but I did think I May Destroy You was a good show, and I understood the uproar. So I understood that. And then, The Five Bloods, I didn't think it was Spike Lee's best movie, but that one actor, why am I forgetting his name?
Delroy Lindo.
Yeah, he did a really good job. And so people were talking about the awards that he was going to get. And then, they felt like he was really snubbed. But that doesn't mean that these individuals, I May Destroy You is a show. So Oscars are obviously just movies. But I think he might get nominated for an Oscar, at least. You never know.
If he doesn't, it's an outrage. And I know outrage, it's like I shouldn't use that word. I just did a column about how I'm not outraged anymore. But within this little world, he was so good. Listen, it's hard for me to get really fired up about this. In the past, we've done shows. Sergio Mims comes on. He's our resident film expert. We go through the nominees for all the different categories, generally the Oscars. But because of the pandemic, Rummana, it's hard for me to think of movies existing anymore.
I know. Because they all you're all watching it at your house, and you're like, wait, did that come last year, or did I I don't even remember the last movie I actually saw in the theater. A friend of mine that I bumped into, Samina Mustafa, one of her sisters, her older sister this time, she told me that was the last movie she saw. So she's like, it's got to be the last movie you saw. We bumped into each other at Evanston Theater. She was with her daughter. This is Samina Mustafa's sister, one of your guests' sister. It was Little Women. She goes, I think that's the last movie we saw before we went into the pandemic. She said it was around February.
Yeah, I think it was the same weekend I saw the last movie I saw. You went to Evanston, which is my hometown, and I went to I'm not sure if it's Skokie or Lincolnwood, which is your hometown. I went to my favorite movie theater in Skokie there, and I saw.
Yeah, Skokie or Niles. Yeah, but yeah, it's on the border. It's really close to my mom's house.
Yeah, right. And anyway, so I remember, and I saw that Ben Affleck movie, which the name of it has escaped me. A totally mediocre movie, but it's hard to think of Oscars and a movie season, and it's hard to think of The Five Bloods was a great flick. I enjoyed it, but I saw it on TV. I lost this. I just saw. We're going to move to recommendations. I'm gonna get to my recommendations, but I saw a Denzel movie, The Little Things. It's totally a big screen movie. I should have seen Denzel on the big screen, and it's watching him on the boob tube. It just undercuts it. So you know what? I got to drop out of the discussion of the debate over the outrage I have over the Oscars because I haven't seen most of these movies.
Yeah, I think you have. I mean, you're pretty good about movies. You've probably seen more than the average person. And then, there's some that are probably nominated that they haven't been on streaming services yet, or that you have to pay. And I'm one of those people where like, I'm not paying. Like, I want to see A Promising Young Woman, but you still have to pay for that. So I'm like, forget it. I'm going to wait till it's free. So yeah, so that like, cause I'm like, I don't want to pay $20 for something I'm going to watch at home.
Yeah, isn't that bizarre?
That's how I feel. But if I really want to watch a movie, I think I would do it. Minari, I do want to see that. That looks like something I would definitely like, about the Korean American family that moves to a small farming town. I do want to see that one. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to watching the Golden Globes, but it won't be the same as it normally is.
All right, so now we're going to move into Rummana's recommendations. But before we do, we're going to test your knowledge of trivia. And when it comes to pop culture, Rummana is pretty damn good. I can just tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever we have anything remotely resembling a dispute on a matter of pop culture, I would say 99 out of 100 times, Rummana will be correct. And I will get that text after the show pointing that out. So, for 10 trivia points, Rummana, you've already mentioned his name once, Jussie Smollett.
Mm-hmm.
What TV show is Jussie Smollett's sister a key actor in? Go.
Oh, Lovecraft Country. I knew who she was, Gurney Smollett, like when she was a little girl. Have you ever watched Eve's Bayou?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did watch it.
She was a popular kid actor. She would be in a lot of movies. So I knew exactly who she was. So when Jussie Smollett, when the case again, when he said that he was accosted by these two MAGA hat wearers, I was like, that's got to be Gurney Smollett's. I think that's how it's pronounced. His sister, because she looks like him. And she came to court a couple times too in the beginning.
Yeah, it's important. See, I can't stop talking about Smollett Gate. I love talking about it any which way I can. I wedge it into the story. Don't believe a word I say. If I ever even remotely say I'm sick of it, because I can't tell. Anyway, I just started watching Lovecraft Country.
You started watching it?
Yes, because I broke down and got HBO because I wanted to see Denzel. I could not go without seeing my beloved Denzel, so I watched last week the Little Things, which I liked immensely, and I urged everybody who's a Denzel fan. I'm cautious about recommending it to you because I don't know how much you love Denzel Washington. But then as one of our listeners, Jay Marie, said, hey, you got HBO, we'll start watching Lovecraft. So I've been watching. I'm really into it. I got to admit.
Okay, well, I'll definitely have to ask you about Lovecraft County because I thought it was uneven. And this is one thing that I noticed a lot of people are doing during the pandemic is they think everything's great that comes out. It's like something comes out and they're like, this is the best movie that ever came out. And everybody just starts talking about it. And I'm like, and then I'm kind of thinking it's not that good. Lovecraft County, I can tell you, or Country or whatever it's called. Sorry, I'm forgetting. I thought it was uneven, but some episodes, like I think there's episode 5 and 6, those like were excellent. Like I thought they were like mini films into like the one show. I thought the themes were really good, but there were sometimes I just felt like it was a little uneven in its presentation, but there were some episodes that were really good. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I know everybody's going to come after me because that's one of the shows everybody was like, oh, this is like the best show ever. I think it was one of the better shows for sure.
First of all, I'm with you. I mean, every series, and since the pandemic, I've been watching series, which I never did before. So for instance, Call My Agent. I love Call My Agent, the French movie. I loved it. But there's some really uneven episodes within that. There's 4 years. You're talking about 24 to 30 episodes, how many ever they made. Some are going to be better than others. Some are going to be like, I just watched, oh my God, what was it called? I told you about it since I got HBO. The Undoing, which was total trash, unbelievably trashy, stupid show. Could not get enough of it, Rummana. I was like, give me more. But even that, there were like some episodes that were so dumb. I'm like, oh my God, you're just insulting me right now. This is so stupid. You're insulting me. You're saying we could put any stupid thing out there. It's sort of like I always say, like a mayor proposing something really stupid just to see how many aldermen are dumb enough to follow him. And that's what it was like. By the way, you saw that one, didn't you?
I did. Remember I talked about it, and you talked about how Hugh Grant was on NPR, and I was just saying how like I was talking about Hugh Grant, and I was like, oh my God, it was so obvious. I knew who the killer was since the beginning. You know, I don't want to give anything away to anybody who hasn't seen it, but.
I think you just gave everything away in that one sentence, but it's okay because really, who did it is not as important as how who did it is caught, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So don't give that away. All right, so what recommendations do you have?
Okay, so I still do want to see Malcolm and Marie, which is hitting Netflix today. That's the movie about a couple that come back from home after an award ceremony and they start fighting. I do want to see that. I'll probably have to watch that on my own because I don't think Mick is going to want to watch that at all. But you know what I did watch? The guy who made Parasite, I watched his older movie called Snowpiercer.
Oh, yeah.
2014. Mm-hmm. I saw that last week with Mick. I don't think he liked it as much as I did, but I did like it. And then, okay, so now this is embarrassing, but I started binge watching this show for the last 2 weeks. It's called In the Dark. It's a CW show and it's on Netflix. And it's about this blind girl in Chicago who befriends this young drug dealer in Chicago. And then he ends up getting killed and she's trying to find out who did it. And it's kind of like a drama, but it's also a comedy, and it's really far-fetched. But there's 2 seasons so far, and it's really funny. I was talking to a young reporter, Madeline Kenny at the Sun-Times. She actually did an excellent column about cheerleading and the Northwestern lawsuit by the cheerleader. I don't know if you saw, but
yes,
anyway, she was telling me she was checking out of work, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go watch The Bachelor," and I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna go watch this show called In the Dark." I go, it's a little ridiculous, but it's still kind of fun. And so she told me the other day, she sent me a message. She goes, hey, I started watching In the Dark. It's kind of fun. So we started laughing. It's because it's like really far-fetched. The lead is a blind character, and she hooks up with a lot of men. And my younger sister is the one who told me to watch it. And we laugh because this blind woman, her hair is always perfect, which I'm not saying a blind person can't have perfect hair. But then she always hooks up with these guys, and none of them are ugly. And we're like, okay, if she's blind, how does she know what these guys look like? I mean, I know it's a show, but we're like, come on. One of them's got to be ugly. So we've been making jokes about it. So we've gotten my other friends to watch it. And so we're all discussing the show. It's like a fun show. If you want to watch something mindless, and it's one of those shows where if you're from Chicago, you notice that the exterior shots are all filmed in Chicago, but then the rest of it's filmed elsewhere because it's not Chicago. They mention Evanston in the show, and that's kind of fun. And they mention like other suburbs too, so it's kind of funny. And they mentioned like, certain neighborhoods, so that kind of makes you chuckle. But it's fun for that reason. So if you want to watch on Netflix, it's called In the Dark.
Wait, so time out. When you say it's fun, is it fun in a way that the show is so bad that you laugh at it, or the show is so good that you really enjoy watching it?
Well, there are just some parts where, some of the jokes that they make, they're kind of funny and you kind of chuckle at it. And I know it's a serious subject. They're dealing with, this young boy who got killed, but there's some things just make you laugh. It's a little cheesy. I think you'd like it. I don't know.
I wrote it down. I circled it. I got all these HBO things because I got HBO, so I'm going to take advantage of it. I don't know how long I'm going to continue to keep paying for HBO, but I circled that In the Dark on Netflix. Now
maybe you can watch Big Little Lies with Nicole Kidman. That was like a big HBO show.
It's made by the same person who did The Undoing, and I started reading the book a while back, and I stopped reading the book because I thought the book was so bad. I don't know if I'm going to go there. And plus I had enough of The Undoing. All right, I'm going to close by exposing my inner Trump-like attitude. And I've already told you about this. I just get your thoughts on this. At the risk of sounding like Donald Trump and in risk of sounding like a MAGA person, getting really kind of sick and tired, Rummana, of all these British actors getting roles of Americans in movies. And the reason I think about Undoing, there are 3 stars in that movie. One's Australian, one's a Brit, and the 2 are Brits, and including the kid who puts on a New York accent. I'm like, you couldn't find some preppy actor, 12, 13, 14-year-old boy in New York City who could play a New York Manhattaner? You know what I'm saying? You had to go all the way to England? Now, I know you're going to say, Ben,
you're all America first when it comes.
Yes. Yeah. And then it really irritates me, the Black Panther movie that's about to come out, which Sergio Mims has already been extolling. He's been sending me texts. He gets all the screener movies. He goes, you got to watch it. We got to talk about it. I'm all set to watch it. Well, Keith Stanfield plays the FBI operative who is giving secrets to the FBI about Fred Hampton. But it's a British actor who plays Fred Hampton. I just can't get over that. I'm sorry, Rummana. You can't tell me there's not a black guy in Chicago who could have played Fred Hampton. They didn't have to go to England. All right, so accuse me of being Trump. Go ahead.
There are definitely a lot of arguments made about that. I think when the Harriet Tubman movie came out, the actress, I think it's Harriet Tubman. Sorry if I'm making a mistake. I think the actress was British. She was a Black British woman, and a lot of African Americans were mad. They're like, you're telling me you can't find an African American to play an African American? So yeah, you have a point to a certain extent, but I think with the Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant kid, maybe he was just the best little white kid that they could find.
That's weak. There's gotta be. I'm sorry. I have a hard time buying that. There's like a million.
Your girl,
New York City's crawling with little actors.
Your girl Gwyneth Paltrow played British people all the time, so you had her.
You know what? I was never a fan, just for the record, of her. In fact, I didn't know this, but Rummana early on in the show would be giving me updates on her. What was the candle scent she had?
Oh, the vagina candle scent. It got sold out.
It sold out, yeah.
Somebody got burned with the vagina candle. There was a story a couple days ago about it.
Literally, somebody burned themselves?
Yeah, or burned their house down with the vagina candle. It was really funny. Everybody's making jokes about it. I gotta find it. I don't know. Something happened with the vagina candle. So
okay, all right. Well, that's what we have to look forward to for next week's update from Rummana Hussain. What happened to the vagina candle? Anyway, I will be watching Lovecraft dutifully, and I'll be able to report back to you next week. And then next week, by the way, we'll be able to talk about the Fred Hampton movie, which I think comes out on the 15th. So anyway, Rummana, stay safe and sound. It's a blast talking to you as always. And Mick, your beloved husband will be my guest for the bonus segment, so I'll be talking to Mick in a little while. So I'm getting a double shot of the Rummana Mick household today, so I'm looking forward to that.
Anything you want us to tell him in our interview?
I can just tell him, walk over and just tell him.
Okay.
All right, Rummana, stay safe and sound. We'll talk to you next week. Okay.
Okay.
All right, that's a great Rummana Hussain. What you got for me, D?
Lynches in the Chicagoland area. Thanks to last week's snowfall, most
Trent, not now. I have updates. All right, let's do the back half here. One quick story here before we head out for the weekend. Actually, maybe two. I don't know. We'll see how we feel after we get through this first one here. How the tables have turned. And listeners, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but there's something happening right now with the Republican Party. Much like the divide we've seen grow with the Democratic Party in the last decade or so, a divide between middle-of-the-road, milquetoast centrist liberals and uber lefty left-winger hippies. Hillary, Bernie, Hillary, I don't know. We're now seeing a rift between Republicans, middle-of-the-road milquetoast centrist conservatives, and Trump-loving stop-the-steal MAGA uber right-wingers. It's happening right now. And hats off to our Illinois friends of the conservative persuasion, because they are going to try and nip this problem in the bud. Sun-Times' Rachel Hinton and Andrew Sullender wrote here, the headline reads, Illinois GOP looks past national divide, seeks leader who can unite far right, middle, city, and downstate. We're all Republicans. With fissures dividing the National Republican Party as it searches for direction and a message after the presidency of Donald Trump, the Illinois GOP is waging its own lower-profile quest for unity as members prepare to pick a new leader who can bring them together. But rather than disagreeing over Trump, freshman Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, stolen elections, or other conspiracy theories, the Illinois Republican Party's challenge is to bridge ideological differences, reach out to minority urban voters, and go back to winning elections. Members of the state GOP committee are planning to meet Saturday to elect a successor to outgoing chairman Tim Schneider, who's been in the seat since 2014. Illinois Republicans are hoping a new face at the head of their party will bring the new energy and new ideas needed to unite Republicans and appeal to most people possible to make gains in the state house, Senate, and other higher offices. Ben, your thoughts?
I have many, many thoughts on this. It was a good article in the Chicago Sun-Times. 3 Republicans seeking to be elected chair of the Illinois House, the Illinois Republican Party, Don Tracy, Mark Shaw, Scott Greider. There was also a good column by Rich Miller in Capital Facts. Frank, thanks for sending me it. I appreciate it. And there's a movement in the Republican Party that's dedicated to the following slogan: one mind, one strength, and no division. One mind, one strength, and no division. And that's completely contradictory to the notion of reaching out to win over minority and urban voters. I love how urban voters. Am I an urban voter? Or when they say urban voters, do they just mean black people? I'm not quite sure what they mean when they say urban voters. I live in Chicago. Does that make me an urban voter? And to win over suburban swing voters. So I'm like, okay, guys, how are you going to reach out? Let's just think about the black vote. The Republican theory about the election, they believe, this is what they believe, that the election was stolen. And to rectify, I got that in quotes, that theft, they wanted to throw out virtually all the black votes from, in the case of Michigan, Detroit, in the case of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and in Georgia, Atlanta. So essentially they just wanted to throw out black votes. So how are you going to win more black votes by telling black voters that you want to throw out their votes so that Donald Trump, who lost the election, can be the winner? And that is essentially the argument that the MAGA wing of the the Republican Party, which is roughly 70% of the Republican Party or 80% of the Republican Party, is making. And that is the argument that everybody who's not named Adam Kinzinger or Mitt Romney is afraid to attack. And so the way Republicans defend that argument is by saying, we have a First Amendment protection right to believe in something that's not true. So stop criticizing us for that. And that's their way of trying to weasel out of that argument that seeks to effectively take Joe Biden out of office and put Donald Trump in office by throwing out tens of millions of votes cast by black people. So how are you going to win over black voters with that? I don't know. One hand, the Republican Party saying, this is what we want to do. We want to have a message that wins over voters whose votes we don't want to count if they don't vote for us. I always point out they offer a lefty like me absolutely nothing to ever vote for them. I would like to be able to think that I could vote for the other major party, but they offer me absolutely nothing that would make me want to vote for them. So what are they offering black people to vote for them? Absolutely nothing. So they're really in a pickle here, D. But they're demanding in the state of Illinois that everybody think the same way in regards to the election. Everybody think the same way in regards to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Everybody think the same way in regards to Congresswoman Mary Miller and her comment that Hitler was right. They don't want anybody to deviate in any way from supporting Trump, Taylor Greene, Mary Miller, and so forth. And Adam Kinzinger, the congressman from Northern Illinois, from the 16th Congressional District, they're censoring him because he feels that Donald Trump should be impeached for inciting a riot. And he feels that Marjorie Taylor Greene should be kicked out of her committee because she has made horrific comments in the past and has behaved in a way that is intolerable for an elected official. So I don't know how they're going to get around that one. Do you get what I'm saying? We talked about this at length, and I urge everybody to check out my interview with the Heartland Moms, Heidi Henry, and Murray Briel yesterday about what Adam Kinzinger could be doing, how he could be positioning himself for a run for Senate or a run for governor by solidifying him as like a throwback to moderate Republicans of past, Jim Thompson, Jim Edgar, Mitt Romney, et cetera, and so forth. But if 80% of the party is asserting that you were not allowed to criticize Donald Trump, even if he incited a riot, you're allowed, I guess, to criticize the people who did the riot, but you're not supposed to have an investigation into the riot. It's over and done with. I don't know how they could move past that little segment, or not little, that significant segment of the population that already supports them. It's not enough to win in many states. It's not enough to win. Obviously, it's not enough to win the presidency. So, I don't know how they're going to get out of this one, but it'll be interesting to watch them try.
And finally, Chicago Democratic Committee leaders meet Saturday to appoint a replacement for State Senator Heather Staines, who announced 2 weeks ago that she's stepping down from a position she was released to in November. We've been talking about it for the last few weeks here. In a surprise development, it appears State Rep Kelly Cassidy isn't a shoo-in for the job. Some committee members are expected to vote for Michael Simmons, deputy director of My Brother's Keeper, which is a part of the Obama Foundation and a former policy director for the city's Department of Planning. He is black, and some members on the committee say it's time the district was represented by a person of color. Illinois Politico goes on here. Cassidy, who is white, threw her hat in the ring so quickly it appeared a fait accompli that the Senate seat was hers. That's how these appointments have gone over the years. One person steps aside before his or her term is up and allows an ally to ease in. But that may not be the case this time around. Alderman Harry Osterman, who heads the Democratic Committee that will vote on the appointment, has made a concrete effort to make the process transparent, holding numerous candidate forums. It's unusual for the appointment process to include constituents in the process, since it's committee members who make the call.
Yes, glad that they're doing that. I would say, if I had to put money in Vegas, I still put my money on Kelly Cassidy to emerge victorious, because she gets, I forget what portion. I had the numbers in front of me the other day when I was talking about it. I think she's got roughly, don't quote me on this, 22% of the weighted vote. So between her, Osterman in the 48th Ward and Kelly Cassidy in the 49th Ward, I think those two are close to 50 plus. So I would have put my money on Kelly Cassidy being victorious. Be interesting if she isn't, what she's going to say about it on Tuesday, because I got her booked to come on the show.
All right, and that's our show, everybody. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews like this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. Subscribe, do all that stuff, and tell your friends. You can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J Show @gmail.com, and you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. We would love to hear from you.
Want to thank Rummana Hussain for the Chicago Sun-Times. Outstanding job as she always does. And of course, thank the man, the myth, the legend, part of Jordan Alton and Law, without whom the show is possible. And as Rummana Hussain, Kelly Cassidy, Michael Simmons, and Harry Osterman will all tell you, back home in beloved Alton.
Oh, wait, you know what, Ben? You know what, Ben? Actually, since you said Heather Staines, I forgot about that. Hey, Staines! What'd you do? I'm on to you.
Oh, my God. Spending time with her family. And John Cullerton. Anyway, back home at Alton, they call him Dennis. Give yourself a raise, take it on petty cash. Have a great weekend, everybody.
The ball is in the CTU's court. fall. The fall.
From the Illinois State Water Survey, the University of Illinois Prairie Research Institute, this is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford. Average temperatures this past week ranged from the low 20s in northern Illinois to the mid-30s in southern Illinois, between 1 and 5 degrees above normal for this time of the year.
Fall.
This week capped off a warmer than normal January, with the statewide average January temperature about 2.5 degrees above the 1981
fall.
normal. This past week was also much more active on the precipitation side. 7-day totals ranged from about a quarter of an inch in northwestern Illinois to over 1.5 inches in central Illinois. 7-day snowfall totals range from just over a tenth of an inch along a line stretching from Calhoun to Gallatin County, all the way up to totals exceeding 12 inches in the Chicagoland area. Thanks to last week's snowfall, most areas in the northern part of the state are now only 1 to 4 inches below average on snowfall for this time of the season. Larger 5 to 10 inch snowfall